This is going to have some massive implications for the Seattle Seahawks. We got to talk about what the NFL pundits are circulating today in the headlines. What's going on, everybody? Christian Pedersen back with another episode of Seahawks Digest, the show that is admittedly ready for some actual football to get here. OTAs are fun, rumor mills are fun, all of this kind of off-season hype train and whatever is fun for a little while, but eventually you find yourself just ready to put the pads back on and play a little football. Until we get there, we're going to have daily content, and even once we get there, we're going to have more of the twice daily content. We're going to have a lot of content for you every single day. So if you want to follow along, hit that subscribe button. If you're already hitting subscribe, like, comment, dislike, share. Those are all other YouTube buttons that I am told by my bosses to tell you to hit. It's the thing that we've got to do to keep this thing a free YouTube show. So strap in. Let's talk about today's headline, because we have got to go all the way forward in time to the 2027 mock drafts. Yes, it is the middle of the off season, and so even people that aren't just YouTube reaction shows, the main actual journalists have to come up with sometimes, bottom of the barrel content. But hey, look, in talking about the mock drafts, for as many layers of hypothetical, talking about things that have to happen a year and a half from now, there is an interesting underlying tone that they're getting to. The future of the defensive line. That was from the Sports Illustrated article. I saw a couple others. The consistent theme that we will get to with all of these hypothetical draft picks is two things. One is that they all have the Seahawks drafting very late in that round, which, booyah, going to be another great season. But two is the need for, or the desire for, or the aim to have the Seahawks drafting defensive stars and defensive pieces to replace current defensive stars and pieces. And it all kind of got me thinking. I mean, and again, comment on this, put on your GM hat. We've all done enough Madden or fantasy football drafts to kind of have a feel for what instinctively, even without knowing tons about the players, what you would all want to add to the Seahawks. So definitely drop a comment on that. But you want to think like, oh, this flashy piece, oh, that huge brand name, something or other. But then at the same time, when we had one of the best defenses in all of the NFL last year, you think to yourself, well, why do we need to replace pieces? Why do we need to add to this? Shouldn't we X, Y, or Z? We lived through the end very recently of the Legion of Boom in a way that was really hard to watch. So football, contracts and age catch up to you faster in football than any other sport, in my belief. And that leaves me thinking that, as uncomfortable as it is to say, it isn't an entirely bad thing to talk about replacing some of the defensive pieces. And that includes an edge rusher. Anthony Smith from Minnesota being the first person to talk about. I don't need to go massively in depth about like who Anthony Smith is. If you guys are really glutton for punishment, I will do another video deep diving on the film on all these guys. But the deliverables from Smith match up very nicely with what Seahawks, I think, would like. They match up nicely with what any team would like, but specifically an edge rusher piece. And again, one of the best points scored, runs or rushing yards allowed, all of the metrics incredibly good from the Seahawks defense last year. So why do we need to add a first team all Big Ten, 17 tackles, 12 sacks kind of guy? It's because eventually the front pieces here are going to be in their mid-30s, are going to be on bigger contracts that we're going to want to restructure, or they might want to go elsewhere. Or we've already seen a couple of different pieces depart this offseason. So I'm here for it. I'm here for at least listening to why we should be drafting more defensive superstars, despite, I guess there's always going to be a need for all things every season, but defensive edge rusher, okay, I'm in. The other one that was interesting to me that it popped up, because I just Googled around a couple of different, what are all the other people saying about this, and that was Kelly Jones from Mississippi State, a big-time cornerback. And again, this one talks just about how Kenneth Walker, Matthew, Woolen, Bryant, pieces, even though we have the best defense, are departing. And so I can only assume that more pieces, I mean, there's always roster turnover and change that will happen, but more key pieces will become vulnerable to either looking for big paydays that the Seahawks do not have if they're trying to keep under cap or just trying to move on. I mean, we had a couple of potential are they or aren't they with retirements this offseason. So I'm here for it. I think also in all of this, I said it at the top, but first one had us drafting 30th. Second one there had us drafting 29th. So it is, in a kind of weird roundabout way, fun to also see that the pundits don't see a fall off this season. I know that you guys have been very loud in the comment section about how this team is incredible. This team is geared up this year for another successful year. And then, weaving this all together, a lot of that seems to come from the skill that this front office has had over drafting in the last 5 years. I don't know how far back you want to go in terms of complementing their ability to build teams, but it is pretty consistent that the base pieces keep feeding in so that it's not. Have you, maybe drop a comment with, have you seen us position in the last couple of seasons where you're like, well, we have a glaring need there? Not necessarily because stuff will always happen in the middle of the season because of an injury to X, Y, or Z where you're like, oh, wow, we could really use a replacement for that person. But I'm saying just overall, like an entire position where it's just like everything that the Seahawks throw at it, they cannot come up with a single solution whatsoever. So it's just like we can't figure out a tight end. Oh my God. Like no matter, like we've tried 93 guys. I just don't think that nothing comes to mind for me that has happened with that. And so a large part of that goes to draft success. And now you have a couple of more people to put on your radar for future pieces of that draft success. Get it that it's a long way off of the 2027, but let me know what you think. General thoughts on the success that the team is slated to have, drafting heavily on the defensive end. Is there anybody in that 2027 class that you like? Do you want to take a quarterback? Do you want to take a receiver? Do you want to take a kicker? Let me know. Drop a comment. And like I said at the top, we're going to have daily look, I just stretched 8 minutes of 2027 hypothetical draft content. I like to talk Seahawks. So I will be here blabbing away all year, every day, daily content. Even if you don't want to subscribe, you know now where to find us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of Seahawks Digest. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys soon.